What is going on, Scan Fam? Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Current. We are here with Alex Kim, the head of partnerships for the BNB Chain in the Americas. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll get right straight into it. So again, I appreciate Alex. It was great meeting you at Denver and just overall seeing your presence there. So appreciate the hospitality and overall great chatting there as well. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to the head of partnerships at BNB?
Yeah, I would say it was quite unexpected, to be honest. I've been in this Web3 space for about 7 years now. Just started off with friends, reading white papers and getting to learn about all these unfamiliar terms. When I first read the Bitcoin white paper, I was actually quite confused as to what proof of work and all that meant. So with natural curiosity, we just continued to research more about it and just continued to study about it. And then we, it was a realization that we were like, oh, wow, like, this can actually change a lot of inefficiencies, especially here in America. It can make a lot of these inefficiencies more efficient using technology and code to automate a lot of the redundancy that's in this world right now. And even like DeFi and all these different things that have been going on. But yeah, ever since that, I have a finance background. I come from a finance background. So a lot of what DeFi promised actually made sense with insurance, replacing the four pillars of TradFi with the four pillars of DeFi, borrowing, lending. And the concepts were really hard to understand at first, quite honestly. It's just this complete relearning that you have to do. So I remember just getting a wallet, literally putting in some ETH and then going on Ava, Uniswap, and all these different DeFi protocols and just testing it out and being able to swap different tokens, being able to send different tokens in the matter of not even a minute, but even within a couple seconds, really made a lot of sense, right? And the order book as well, just like the transactions were happening through blockchain. So you didn't have to go to something called DTCC in TradFi, which takes like over a week to finalize a transaction. So I was like, wow, this is actually going to start changing things. Eventually from there, I started working for different startups as well. Some were DeFi related, some eventually became metaverse, NFT related. And then from there, I just made my way over to BNB Chain.
Awesome.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate the breakdown. Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Those, some of those earlier startups that you were a part of, some of those like, NFT and metaverse things, were those on the BNB chain as well, or were those some more ETH projects?
Yeah, a lot of them were actually based on ETH. Yeah, a lot of them were based on ETH, but I think they're all pursuing a multi-chain strategy now.
And then second, like, what do you think sets BNB Chain apart? I'm sure you answer this question a lot, but like from other blockchain projects out there, just give us kind of your rundown of the kind of apple to apple comparison there.
Yeah, so being quite honest, we went through a really rapid growth phase for BNB Chain. From when we first launched all the way to where we are now, we experienced massive growth, and I'm really happy to see that. So I would say one of the things that really sets us apart is we have constant innovation, right? So because we are an L1 blockchain, we have a lot of flexibility as to what we want to build, but a lot of that is going to be very community driven. So one of the biggest launches that we have that we announced is BNB Greenfield, which is our data storage infrastructure. And a lot of that was really listening to our developer community and our user community. So BNB Chain is really big on gaming. It's really big on Web3 gaming. And a lot of these inefficiencies that happened that we saw were a lot of microtransactions. It had a lot of users and we just had to scale, right? So how do we scale not just with L2s and rollups and all that, but how do we scale from an infrastructure level? And that starts with microtransactions, right? So BNB Greenfield is created to solve one of those issues out there. Another thing I would say that sets us apart from a lot of the different L1s is that governance for us is not just a black and white situation. We've seen what, like this pure decentralized concept does. Lots of hacks, lots of exploits. So we're still trying to figure out, what that decentralization looks like, right? So we believe in progressive decentralization. So from in this journey, it's not just us that are part of this journey towards becoming that fully decentralized future, but also involving our community and our users. And we've completely seen that through our I think recently we hit about 5 million weekly active users and about 1.3 million daily active users on BNB Chain as well. So a lot of our efforts really do reflect on the users coming over to our chain.
Nice. Kind of a little side question here, something that's talked about a lot, when people compare BNB to Ethereum is the difference in centralization / decentralization. Could you kind of talk about, how BNB approaches that with how their nodes work differently from ETH and whatnot?
Yeah, so for sure, ETH is definitely the most decentralized platform, L1 currently out there, right? For BNB Chain, I would say, again, it's very progressive for us. So by end of this year, we're supposed to hit 100 validators. Currently, we're at 29 right now. We're going to double down on that by half one of this year. And then by end of this year, we're going to hit the 100 target. I think one thing that's really overlooked, though, is although the number of validators are quite low on BNB Chain when we compare ourselves to others, right? But when we look at the Satoshi Nakamoto coefficient, which is pretty much the amount of nodes that you have to compromise to take down a network, ours is actually much higher. It's in the double digit numbers. I believe it's about 12 right now. And compared to a lot of different chains that, boast a lot of these higher numbers than us, the reality is it only takes about 3 or 4 nodes to fully compromise in order to take down the entire network. So I wouldn't say it's really about the quantity. It's really about the quality. But again, the quantity does matter as well. So we do have those initiatives to bring on those validators onto our network by end of this year.
Sure. And I would add, there's some pros and cons to that, right? There's been cases where there's been huge hacks that have happened, and thanks to BNB's, progressive decentralization, those have really been able to been kind of caught in their tracks.
Yeah, for sure. I think, one of them that happened was last year. It was the really unfortunate one, right? But not to talk too much on that, but that was the first time our network went down. That was actually, yeah, ever since launch, that was our first time it went down. But through quick community action and by doing all the things that we did, we were able to mitigate those risks, right? We were able to, we really do care about the users because at the end of the day, it really are the users that, bring the value to the chain, right, itself. So we have to act on their best interests, and that's what we did.
Awesome.
Yeah, and as a head of partnerships, how important would you say strong partnerships and connections are to the crypto projects and also just everyday investors?
Yeah, so I would say for BNB Chain, partnerships are quite crucial for us. So I talk about this in 2 ways, right? So one is powering the infrastructure. So making sure that you have the underlying technology ready, it's built out, it's reliable and secure. So that's one of the most important things. The second part is the partnerships, right? How do we bring those brands? How do we bring those users? And how do we bring those developers and projects onto our chain so we can create better value creation for everyone that's a part of the BNB Chain ecosystem? So one of them is going to be our infrastructure, and we really try to focus on that quite a lot through solid partnerships. So how are we able to bring on different node validators? How are we able to bring on different projects that can, different infrastructure projects that are able to contribute to our infrastructure, provide reliable NFT marketplaces, just feeling this at the top of my head, right? How can we bring those DeFi protocols over to BNB chains such as Uniswap, which we recently just brought over? And how can we bring in a lot of these blue chips that are doing really well on other chains, have gotten the security and the trust from their users and bring them over to BNB Chain? And how can we continue to strengthen that as well? So that's one part of the bigger picture, right? Is really bringing in those projects. And the second is external partnerships, right? And what we do is with a really robust infrastructure, what brands and projects eventually look for, besides having cheap fees and really fast transaction, is security and compliance. If I'm going to pursue this multi-chain strategy, or if I'm going to deploy on BNB Chain, one of the things that they look for is security. And our network has only gone down once in our whole entire lifetime. And they see all these blue chip projects. They see all the infrastructure providers, and they see the infrastructure of BNB Chain as well, and the opportunities to create this sort of business model on BNB Chain. So relationship building and partnerships are also very crucial. I would say also for just everyday life as well.
In terms of how does BNB Chain work with other blockchain projects and companies to achieve its goals? So I know partnerships are key, but how does that relationship really work internally?
Yeah, for sure. So If we work very closely with our projects, if there's a project that's doing really well and contributing a lot to BNB chain, it doesn't go unnoticed. So we work very closely with them, being able to give them feedback on, if there's any smart contracts, if there's any new initiatives, or if there's anything new that they want to build with us, we give them that support. That's also shown through our grant program as well. So if there's any projects that want to build on BNB chain, and we know that they're a solid project, and we know that some of the initiatives that they have are going to directly address our users, we will give you a grant to achieve your goals at BNB Chain. So we have a builder grant program. So we give about $500,000 a month to different Web3 projects that want to build on BNB Chain. If, the team and the vision is the most important. If you're a solid team and you have a really good vision, and you're acting in the best interest of the users, and you're really thinking about the bigger picture, and on top of that, you have a really good product, we want to support you, right? Oftentimes, we see a lot of the biggest support challenges that people need is often financing, right? Especially with all this crazy stuff going on in the macro economy, financing is getting very difficult to find. So we want to be able to encourage those developers and to be able to fund those teams as well.
Awesome.
I know you mentioned something about the $500,000 grant. Can you talk maybe a tiny bit just for our audience? What is the process of securing those funds, getting those funds, or a portion of those funds? If you can just elaborate on that, I think that'll be extremely helpful.
For sure. So if you're a solid team, meaning, you have a very good background, you're honest, you have good personality, and you're a very good team, you work well together, you have a really good product or service, and you continue to work and you continue to make sure that your project is getting recognized, one of the best ways, and if you're also thinking of launching on BNB Chain as well, one of the best ways to contact us is, for me, it's LinkedIn, but we do have a lot of our different biz dev people on our team who are easily accessible. Reach out to them, have the conversation, and it is honestly dependent on case by case. We want to see what you're building, but I wouldn't say there's no general structure to how we evaluate these projects, right? If you're a DeFi, metaverse, NFT, infrastructure, the way that we evaluate these projects are quite different.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you for elaborating on that. And now kind of shifting more into could you share in some specific examples of successful partnerships that the BNB chain has formed in the past? And if possible, what did the BNB chain gain from that partnership or experience?
Sure. So last September, we partnered closely with Google Cloud, and really the whole entire scope of that partnership was really to support early stage Web3 projects and blockchain startups. Using Google Cloud's infrastructure to analyze on-chain data, encrypt information through Google Cloud, we're able to basically also help our Web3 projects also gain more exposure as well. Google Cloud is a very great Web2 partner. They've done a lot of things in Web3, so they're a really good partner to basically share these bigger visions with, and we hope to continue that with them. Recently as well, we did an accelerator program, and Google Cloud was also one of those partners for that as well. So one of our projects that we're looking to build on BNB Chain, GCP was also a sponsor of that, so they were a big part of it as well.
How does that partnership form? Because I know working with such a big brand such as Google, it takes a lot of time, effort, legal review. Can you kind of give us a little bit of insight of what that took to kind of get to that level of that kind of partnership?
Yeah, it's really our entire BD team, right? It's our entire biz dev team, and they're all super amazing. So exactly how we accomplish that is by reaching out to them, having these calls together, and really trying to focus on the bigger visions, right? The bigger aspirations that we can accomplish together. Being able to recognize their efforts that they made in the Web3 journey so far and saying, hey, this is how we can help you. This is what BNB Chain can do. This is what we do. And this is how we can help you achieve those visions for your company. And this is how GCP, Google Cloud, can help us achieve our vision of onboarding next wave of users into Web3. So it's really focusing on the bigger pictures and being able to form these really strong relationships and being able to be friendly, being able to be collaborative, being able to share these different ideas together. And that's what the entire collaborative process from step one all the way to announcement is really what's important while focusing on the bigger pictures together.
Gotcha. So you mentioned, in these partnership prospects, you're looking for, companies that are already doing things in Web3 to advance the space. Can you touch a little bit on what it was about Google Cloud in particular that they were already working on that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, so Google Cloud does quite a lot right now, right? So they have on-chain data analytics, they have their own data warehouse as well that analyzes on-chain activity. So in general, a lot of their initiatives are really great, right? Things that they have already done as well, just to support Web3. I think they also announced that they were also a validator, a couple nodes for some other different ones as well. So they've been in the space for quite a bit. So they're making some really good strides, and we want to make sure that they're able to meet that.
Awesome. And in terms of partnerships, what are you specifically looking for? I know that you do a lot of the stuff in the Americas. What is like kind of your rundown of your day-to-day or your kind of qualification or aspects or industries, verticals, anything that you're looking at that gives you like that eye for the next potential big partnership?
Yeah, so currently I'm really here trying to focus on what's going to be the next big thing, right? And how can we attract that to our chain? Another big priority for me is BNB Greenfield, being able to bring on those validators, being able to bring on those really good projects to test out Greenfield. So just a very rough timeline of BNB Greenfield. We're going to launch testnet very soon, around early April, and then mainnet is supposed to be released later this year. So again, BNB Greenfield is our own entire data storage infrastructure. It's actually going to be quite big. It's going to be a separate blockchain that interacts with the BNB chain itself through relayers. So it's going to create a better user experience and developer experience for those projects that need reliable storage for any projects that they're looking to build, while being able to be a part of an EVM compatible chain like BNB chain. So we're all about the user experience, developer experience. I think one of my focuses right now that I've been slowly seeing through travels and just talking with people is we're starting to see this trend of real world assets. I think it's quite a buzzword right now, but it's going to be quite interesting to see how real world assets are going to contribute to bringing assets off chain, but still tokenizing those same assets and bringing them on chain to be used as a source of yield. That's still something that we're also trying to figure out. But I also think Web3 gaming is also going to be quite big. A lot of the Web3 collective vision of different projects, different developers, us, right? We want to bring in as many Web2 people into Web3 as possible. So one of the things that I'm really focused on is Web3 gaming. So how can we bring in hyper casual gaming? How can we bring in these different types of gaming projects over to BNB chain? And how can we encourage, different gamers from the Web2 background to use Web3, right? So those are just some of the things I focus on.
Yeah, so like you mentioned about this like kind of adoption of the BNB chain. What are some of the challenges of scaling and advancing mass adoption on the BNB chain?
Yeah, so I would say not just on BNB chain, but I think it's a very common problem within Web3 right now is the user experience is actually really bad. The developer experience is actually we're not there yet. User experience and developer experience, we're just not there yet as in Web3 as a whole. I think it's going to take us about 5 or 10 years to fully mature Web3, but we're still experimenting, right? This is still something that we're all still trying to figure out collectively. For BNB Chain, one of the issues that we currently try to really focus on is how can we bring better user experience? I'm going to touch more on that. So let's look at on-ramping, right? Which is one of the major ways of getting Web2 people into Web3. The current on-ramping methods are banks, the crypto, and then you have to buy it on exchanges, send it to a wallet, or if you have a wallet, you can directly on-ramp. But what happens if, all these liquidity issues and macroeconomic issues are getting in your way? So this is still some of the things that we still have to figure out, right? Even with credit cards and identity verification, it's a lot right now for people to get into Web3. Mm-hmm. With Web2 users right now, although it may sound simple, who wants to do it, right? Especially with all this negative press about the apparent scams of blockchain and crypto and all this stuff going on in the news. It deters a lot of people from entering Web3. So it's just something that we still have to figure out together. Another thing that I would say is the user experience is still not quite that good overall. Like if you're going to access a wallet and you're going to access all these different protocols and games for Web3, people like us, it's super easy, right? Like we just know how to connect the wallet. We know how to store NFTs. We know. but there's also lack of education for these Web2 people to come onto Web3. Like, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone connect a wallet? What does connect a wallet even mean? And where do I see my NFTs? Where do I see my crypto? You know, those are still some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And the best projects that are going to tackle these questions are really going to be the ones that make it in the future.
For sure. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You know, and like, how easy is it for someone who's just learning how to connect a wallet to a website, how to get, you know, really utilizing DeFi, you know, how easy is it for them to connect their wallet to the wrong website, you know, and get drained?
Exactly.
Things like that. Yeah, you know, I mean, DeFi Llama recently came out with a super cool browser extension that, you know, kind of shows you whitelisted websites to connect your wallet to. I think that's a great move as far as usability for, you know, the common user. But yeah, still a long ways to go.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I totally agree. I mean, it's going to take some time, as you said. We're still very early, and it's kind of, that's what makes it so exciting, is we get to decide what that on-ramp looks like. How do we make it easier to onboard the next billion users? And so that kind of goes directly right in my like next question is like, how does BNB Chain plan to stay ahead of the curve in terms of technology and innovation?
Yeah, to be honest, that's a really good question. And it's something that I don't even know the answer to, right? So everything happens so quick in the space, and we never know what's going to happen in the future. You know, the next day, you know, something could happen with the whole entire Web3 space that, you know, Web3 just becomes Web2 again, or, you know, something just catastrophic happens. You know, we don't know what the future holds, right?
Right.
But I would say there are great ways to prepare for those kind of things and to prepare for these different challenges that might be ahead of us. And again, that really focuses, I mean, a lot of it, from my opinion, is really on infrastructure. If you have a very solid infrastructure, if you have really good projects that are contributing to the infrastructure of the actual chain itself, whatever's being built on top of it will continue to stay secure. Security and good infrastructure are the two most important things to have for any chain. If you have good security, good infrastructure, I think, from my personal opinion, you're able to stay ahead of the curve. You're able to mitigate some of those challenges or risks that happen later in the future. If you don't focus on the infrastructure and if you don't focus on the security, if an application fails on top of it, then it can potentially lead to this cascading effect where it also affects the infrastructure and eventually the chain itself, right? So you want to be able to build out a very robust infrastructure, have the best builders, have the best projects being built on top of it, and having these users and developers constantly developing. So developers and users are really going to be where it's at. Developers just know what's happening. Developers are building stuff that not a lot of people have heard of, that not a lot of people, quite frankly, can understand, right? So it's also looking at these kinds of innovations and saying, huh, you know, like, where will this be? It's constant questioning and curiosity as well. You can't just block out what seems so different to you or what seems so unfamiliar to you,
Right.
right? You have to kind of understand, how are these developers approaching these bigger ideas, what they're building, why are they building on our chain, and what's their strategy for it, right? And then it starts to make sense of where the trends are going to be, what are the users doing on our chain. So I would say, again, just really stay ahead of the curve. You really have to listen to the developers, but also really focus on the security and infrastructure.
Could you kind of talk about that, you know, developer to the BNB team pipeline as far as information goes and receiving that feedback?
Sure. So it really is a lot of relationship building, right? So if we're helping a project very closely on BNB Chain, we are very active with them. Like, we chat with them. If there's any issues, they bring it up to us. We have a couple developers saying, hey, like, you know, we want some of these features, or, you know, this is what we're experiencing right now. Is there any way you can help us? Our developers, our BNB Chain tech team will go in and help them. The BEs will also be there to assist them in anything that they need. If they need testnet tokens, if they need, you know, any sort of extra push, we'll be there to work with them on it. So it is really creating this sort of this one-to-one relationship with them, right? Being able to get in contact with us and us being able to help them in any situation.
Yeah, and I know you speak to a lot of different projects and have been in the blockchain space for some time. I just want to get your insight in terms of like, how do you think the landscape will evolve? I know you mentioned a little bit about like we're about 10 years away from like that really easy usability of certain products and things of that nature, but I really kind of want to get your insight on how is it going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years or so?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of them is education. We need education right now. I think, a lot of people associate Bitcoin with crypto and crypto to scam. So there's just a lot of different misconceptions about the space right now. Proper education is needed, and it really starts at a university level, student level as well. From my personal opinion, a lot of these innovations are going to happen with people our age, right? Gen Z, people in their 20s or 30s or even early 40s, right? Like these are the people that are going to continue to build out these innovations. And it starts off at an education level, being able to explain to them what blockchain is, being able to go down to the basic beginnings and being able to hold their hand and kind of guide them throughout this process. Because it is very difficult if you want to have a full grasp of Web3. From there, it's going to take a long time, right? Like education just doesn't happen overnight. It is a long, long process. Second is we need to start seeing more progressive policy, progressive legislation, progressive regulation. A lot of it right now is still a lot of it is still very, it's not progressive towards Web3 at all. And it actually doesn't do anything for innovation. It doesn't encourage innovation at all. It actually hinders it. So we need to be able to guarantee that developers building on Web3 are able to build on Web3 what they want to build without having to focus on all these different, quite frankly, unnecessary repercussions right now.
Right.
So it starts off with two of those things, in my opinion. And once we start to see progressive regulation, just how like the internet was formed, right? It's going to create this framework of what exactly Web3 is and what exactly this new internet era is going to be. It all starts off with a policy and regulation level as well. So once we have that solid framework, people are going to start understanding, what they can build, what they can do. So it's going to take a long time to mature.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to forget how young crypto really is, right? I'm sure a day in crypto feels like a week.
I remember with like FTX collapsing and everything kind of just all kind of bunched up. It feels like it was like right around the corner, but it was already so long ago, almost within the crypto news. So just interesting to see how things move so quickly. And like you said, with regulation, probably going to even move even faster because more builders, more people are going to come into the space. It's going to be a super exciting time.
For sure. And I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah. In terms of like, what are some of the new developments or partnerships that BNB Chain has in the works? Any that you can share with us, or like any kind of, even just kind of the route or the path that you guys are looking to take, like right now?
Yeah, right now, our biggest priority is Greenfield. We really want to focus on that right now. It is going to be quite revolutionary in terms of how Web3 storage is going to work. So that is our biggest priorities right now. Again, just repeating the rough timeline, we are going to aim to release it later this year, but introduce testnet sometime early April. So we have some partners that are going to be a part of that, and you'll see more announcements coming up on BNB Greenfield, but it is going to be a really good development for the entire Web3 space.
Yeah, can you dig into like what exactly is Greenfield? Like what is the innovative aspect of it? What are some of the things that we can expect in the coming weeks?
Sure. So it is going to be a separate proof of stake blockchain. So it's going to be two independent blockchains. It's going to have its own validators. It's going to have its own storage providers. So one of the things that we see right now in space with other storage, with Web3 storage infrastructure providers is this lack of usability. And actually, some of them are not quite decentralized as most people will think. And some of them are quite expensive to use as well. So it also hinders some of the developer experience that we talked about before. So Greenfield aims to solve all these problems, being able to make things cheaper a little bit faster and being able to accommodate to all of our users' needs through a better developer experience and user experience. So one of the things that are going to stand out is user IDs, which we think is going to be quite good. If you're someone in Web3, I think one of the most common addresses we are used to is OX, right? So you'll be able to directly interact with OX IDs on Greenfield because it's a native relay. I mean, it's a native set of relayers with BNB Chain and Greenfield. You're able to continue to program your smart contracts on BNB Chain, but use Greenfield for all of your storage needs for your actual project being built on BNB Chain. So it is going to be quite good. Again, there's not really much to say about it right now because we still are not on testnet, but I'm really excited to see the progressive, the developments that we see when we are.
Yeah, that sounds incredible, and I'm super excited to read into it, hear more about it, and even some of the partnerships that you were a part of as well to make sure that this kind of takes off. Lastly, just wanted to open it up to you. Anything kind of you want to say, whether it's to the audience about BNB, your team, shout outs, anything at all. This is kind of your time, and then we'll have Evan wrap up.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say thank you to both of you as well for having me here. But really, BNB Chain could not be possible without the entire team, right? So shout out to the entire team over here, our marketing team, our developer relations team, our biz dev team. It really is, Web3 is a very collaborative, collective journey. I think it's really important to recognize that. And I really do believe that there's no such thing as competition right now. There are other players that also want to do something different. And we do need this healthy relationship with each other in order for us to constantly innovate. There's a lot of background noise. Quite frankly, there's lots of background noise happening in the macroeconomic world, but it's important to just forget about that for a second and just know that this is the developer's world right now in Web3, and we just need to continue to build.
For sure. Yeah. BNB was the first chain that I ever interacted on, in my DeFi experience, probably about 2.5 years ago. So it's cool having you on and seeing, the progression of BNB. The Greenfield project sounds very interesting. If you don't have anything else to say, Alex, thank you again so much for hopping on the podcast with us. We actually just started supporting the BNB chain on CoinScan.com, and we've been seeing a lot of love from our community about that. We've got a lot of BNB users. And yeah, thank you again for coming on, Alex. Appreciate your insight. And this has been The Crypto Current. We'll have all of Alex's links in the description below, and we will see you guys next week.